Right, listeners, we're going to start the presentation evening episode off on a bit of a somber note. Unfortunately, we've lost a very, very valued member of the rugby community in Chloe Richards, who passed away suddenly Monday evening after a car accident she was involved in on Sunday night. Obviously shattering news for the whole rugby community. Obviously her friends and family deeply upset. Was a member and a valued member of the Carryong Wanderers, was a club captain there as well. And would there be so many people hurting in and around that club, especially the Razorbacks had the joint team there this year, and there'll be a lot of people around that, that rugby community that are hurting as well. Just a really important message to hammer home here, and that is, and we've said it a couple of times this year, and that is to look after one another, especially as rugby season ends. It is not a time where we sort of let go of those around us, those we played against or those we play with, around your club or against your club or whatever. Make sure you keep in contact with those people. If you're directly affected by this, there's people that you can reach out to, especially each other. And if you know somebody who is in that carry-on club that you think will be struggling, particular her partner, Blake, who's a valued member of carry-on as well, reach out to those people and, let's get each other through a pretty tough time. So our thoughts and condolences go out to Chloe, his immediate family and the Carryong Wanderers, and just really reinforcing that message as well. Please look after each other. Reach out to one another. A phone call can save a life.
Welcome to BnB Studios, the home of Central Coast Rugby. Let's get stuck into another week of opinions and oversights from Berner and Barthy as they bring us the latest news. Good chat, good footy, good fun. Take it away, boys.
All right, Barthy, we've made it. Welcome, everybody. It's the presentation episode for 2022. Exciting times, mate. We've turned the camera around. We're flipping it. We're just shooting in a different
angle of the BnB Studios.
Exactly. Different color walls, different colors, everything, mate.
Basically, we've flipped the camera angles so that those YouTubers, you're now seeing what's normally behind the camera. And thank you to Tomo for the last time this year.
Yeah,
lovely intro.
Gorgeous intro.
Seamless. Identical.
Nails it every week.
Every week it's the same. She does a good
There's
job.
There's never been a more consistent
well done, Tomo. Good on you.
Intro gal. Mate, huge episode. We're going to obviously wrap up for the last results that are around for the year for Erina, Gus and the team at Erina Podiatry.
Yep.
Cracking grand final on the weekend with obviously some premiers to be crowned. We're going to recap the CCRU presentation awards.
Yep.
So the award winners there, and then obviously what everybody has come to listen for is the BnB
Awards.
BnB Awards.
Prestigious.
9 to
awards.
give out there, I believe. And obviously we'll finish the episode up on a little bit of love. And
let me tell you, listeners, you don't want to be one of those 9.
You do not want to be one of those 9 at all. It's probably a bit too close in the mic, that one. We've got an amazing platter here as we're indulging on, as you do at all Prezzo evenings. Well, mate, let's get into the wrap-up of the results. Thanks to Gus and the team at Erina Podiatry. I'll tell you what, that sun, for those of you that are watching me, it's going to put me in a little bit of bother. I might need I never thought I'd have to put on sunscreen indoors.
Yeah, well, you are of that complexion.
You know what? I'm just going to bear with it.
Yep. You tough it out.
For the listeners, you won't care at all. For the viewers, it's going to be an uncomfortable experience for you and me. My skin could be boiling. I could have blisters by the end of the episode.
Your skin will be the colour of the BnB Studios song.
All right, mate. Well, let's get on to the results. So 4 games the weekend: President's Cup, Premier 2, the women's, and then on to Premier 1. So the first game, President's Cup, Avoca got the win over Lakes 16 points to 8. Probably a little bit closer than a lot of people thought, but awesome win there to Avoca. And also Fuzz.
The Dad's Armies team.
It is. Fuzz played his last game for them.
Well, they say that.
I feel like every time someone retires, though, it's like, well, have you?
No, it was great.
But he deserves it.
Great President's Cup side. The who's who of who used to be from a long time ago, and they're now all old and at Premier 1 level and have a good time doing it. And so big congratulations to Toddy Wadey, who was the coach, and to all the players on their Premier 3, their President's Cup win. So congratulations to all players involved.
Next game, Premier 2, we had the Lakes defeating Terrigal 29 points to nil. Pretty convincing victory there.
Yep.
It's pretty one-sided the whole time. Lakes were far too dominant. Terrigal weren't really in it for the game.
No, it
was one of those times where the Lakes were just a better team. But as Terrigal, there wasn't really too much that you could do.
No, and which is where you got to give absolute credit to the Lakes, because they were just far superior, too good, too strong, and they'd been that all year. So congratulations to the Lakes on a outstanding year in Premier 2 and winning the competition. Never in doubt. I didn't think during that game.
Not at all. And on to the women's. This was the game that I was just so excited for, and every time I harp on about it all the time. There is nothing I love more in Central Coast Rugby than watching Avoca and Terrigal play against each other in the women's. It's obviously a great day across all grades for those two teams, but particularly in the women's, there is just so much to offer left, right, and centre. Unfortunately for me personally, it just didn't live up to the hype, and that was a mixture of a few things. I think it was, it was raining, so a lot of drop ball, but a lot of penalties that were
over enthusiasm burner.
Yes, on a lot of angles, and unfortunately, penalties sort of dictated the game.
Well, the game was strangled, and the potential for it to be an absolute spectacle, I guess, was diminished a little bit. We've got to be very, very careful, because we can't go sort of shit canning the game too much, because that does the Avoca Beach side a disservice. What the Avoca Beach side did was certainly enough to win the game, and it was outstanding. I guess, we've sort of spoken about it a fair bit, how much and how entertaining those games are, and they're always free-flowing, fast, competitive games, and this was quite opposite. It wasn't free-flowing, it wasn't fast, and sometimes grand finals go that way, and the Avoca Beach women did an outstanding job. A big shout-out especially to the veteran, Renee Staven, and
she killed it.
Absolutely killed it, and clearly an outstanding rugby player, still going strong.
I think the result for me was still. I don't know if when I'm saying wasn't the best game to watch. I don't know if penalties ruined the game in terms of change of result. I think the better team won, and Avoca have had the wood over Terrigal for a couple of games now, and I think that the better team on the day still won. It was just that purely from a fan's perspective, I just want to see these two players go at it the whole time. But there was a penalty for offside. And a lot of the time, when I was looking, I'm like, they're half a metre offside. So that's how it is. But but congratulations to Avoca. It's Terrigal's had it over him in grand finals, and they, that grand final a couple of years ago where that just went down to the wire, and you saw how pumped Hannah Stewart was coming out before the game.
We made comment to it in the call. She was
to make amends for that, for that game where,
she did. She was good, strong.
She was unreal.
I think when you break down, you look at all the individual players for the Avoca Beach side. Everyone went out there and did their job really well. And I guess it was we've spoken about it before. It's the adapting to change. It doesn't matter what you think the laws are. It doesn't matter whether you think you're onside or not. It doesn't matter whether you're onside or not and the referee says you're not. You've got to adapt to the referee and the referee's interpretations. Now, whether they're right or wrong, that's irrelevant. The referee is there. So the players and the team have to respond to that. And I think the Avoca Beach side did that a little bit better in that game.
Yeah, I don't think anyone from Terrigal had a bad game either. Like it was just those games you love watching, and every moment.
Terrigal couldn't get into the game.
Yeah,
I think their over enthusiasm kept them out of the game, giving away too many penalties and mistakes. So, but we've seen that happen time and time again when Avoca played Terrigal. Was it 3 out of 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4? Avoca Beach won. So. It's a really good battle, and it was another battle. It wasn't quite the entertaining, free-flowing spectacle we thought it was going to be, but it was still entertaining nonetheless.
I think it's just because it has been that in the past. It's always been that. It's never been anything differently.
The scores can still be tight.
Yeah.
But, a couple of years ago, people are getting pulled down like a metre before the line, turning over, and it goes back the other 90 metres, back the other way, get tackled. And Yeah, well, mate, you can see how pumped we are just even talking about it.
I know. And that was just, purely from a spectator's perspective of like, this is awesome. I get to watch this game.
Yeah,
It's going to be live, and I've got these amazing players in front of me. But
I'm gonna shout out a bit of love a bit later on to all women rugby players, and just what an outstanding job you guys have done in bringing real rugby back. And I'll talk about it a bit later on. But yeah, thank you to Terrigal Trojan women and the Avoca Beach Sharks women for your outstanding season and what you've done. And congratulations to the Avoca Beach Sharks on winning the premiership.
also, congratulations to Terrigal, runners-up, and also minor premiers as well. So awesome
absolutely.
from both teams. All right, on to Premier 1. The scoreline says 13-8, so it might be a dour grand final. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it was entertaining, wasn't it?
It was so good. There was just, the 2 tries that were scored, both by forwards. The backs didn't, I think the conditions, were fine, so it wasn't exactly like it was just
Fined up by the end.
Yeah, it wasn't it, it was just pissing down the whole time and you couldn't get clean ball out. Both teams just nullified each other.
Yeah.
And Razorback scrum really saw dominance in that second half. They were just completely picking apart Terrigal. I've never seen Terrigal fold like that in the scrum. Just basically almost just part ways. That when you got the 8 people trying to hold on, and it comes up and you got the whole Terrigal scrum which is disbanded, and Arimbas or Razorbacks are still kind of there. I've never seen that sort of dominance from them before, but it's got to convert it into points. And there was just a couple of moments there that Terrigal just won, and that it's the same thing all the time that I'm a broken record saying it. Terrigal just find a way to win. They might not play the best, they might not be the most dominant team. I actually thought the Razorbacks were a bit the better team on the day. I thought they played better than Terrigal. I thought they deserved to win more in terms of the way that they were playing, the areas they were dominating, but they didn't. Yeah. And I feel like I say all the time when it's a tight one and Terrigal wins in a tight one or it's a draw, is that Terrigal weren't the best side, but they didn't lose. And that's a little bit how I felt on the weekend. But it was just contests everywhere. The line out was a contest. Scrums in the first half were a contest until Razorbacks found dominance. The rucks, like every ruck was a contest, both ways. The tackle was a contest. You saw so many big shots, and not only just huge shots, but players bouncing out of them, just still staying on their feet. So, for me, mate, I thought that the women's game was going to be sort of the game of the day, but that Razorbacks Terrigal effort was unreal for 80 minutes.
It really was. It was an absolute arm wrestle of a match. As you said, it didn't really expand because the sides just kept sort of nullifying each other, and I think that's where you got to give absolute credit to the Razorbacks. You'll be surprised. I actually didn't see the game going that way. I spoke to a couple of people beforehand, and I said I could see the game going 2 ways. I could see Terrigal absolutely flogging the pants off them, or I could see the Razorbacks pulling the Trojans down and grafting them into an arm wrestle, and I could see the Razorbacks winning that arm wrestle. And Terrigal, to their credit, they were up to the challenge. They were up to the arm wrestle, and they were up to the grit and the fight and the grind. I think it's a win for the Terrigal Trojan side of sort of pure heart and desire, if you know what I mean. It wasn't necessarily on rugby, because I don't think it's any shock to say we've seen them play a hell of a lot better. And they have played a lot better, but they weren't allowed to play better. And it's not often that they're put in that situation where they're not allowed to play better because the oppositions are just so strong. And that's where I think we have to give absolute credit to the Trojans for grafting beyond playing the smarter rugby, taking the points when they were on offer. But also, too, we need to give absolute credit for the Razorbacks for putting on that outstanding performance.
They were the only side I felt going into the game that could have beaten Terrigal, just on recent finals form. I think before the finals, I think there was a couple, I thought Karen could really get there, but on that form, I thought, and especially speaking to Nick Meyer, and his comments, how he said it was just like, kids fighting on the field. This is how much they fight between each other. And it would be that bit of a dysfunctional family, but it's a family and it works so well together. Yeah. Because you've got so many people that do different opinions, but the goal is the same.
Yeah.
And, that was just so clear on the weekend. And I think, the effort they put in there was just outstanding. Like every player, I said their back three. I thought Adam Dankert might pick them apart. The back three didn't.
They were good.
And it wasn't not that Adam Dankert played bad. Those back three just played well.
You know what? Cerrone, Bender, and Stone Street, they all had solid performances.
Yes.
And there wasn't a weakness in the back three.
Yeah.
And so whilst Danks was playing a game which I thought he should have played too, which was finding the ground, there was no mistakes.
Yeah.
The ball was returned well. It was either kicked back or was returned with a bit of interest on foot. And so the back three were outstanding and really kept the Razorbacks in the game. And I thought Terrigal went about it the way they should have to win the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, well done Razorbacks. They surprised me, and they surprised me all semi-final series. They're probably saying, that's no surprise to them.
Yeah.
But I thought they had a really strong and a really, I guess, an amazing semi-final series. But they just couldn't get there in the end, and that shows you how good Terrigal Trojans are.
Well, they could have lost the first round to Lakes.
While I think of it too. I know we're not giving too much credit to Terrigal, but the Razorbacks were on the attack, with a minute to go. They score a try, we go into extra time. Was that right? Or no, 16-8, wasn't it? What was the final score?
13-8.
13-8. Yeah, they score a try, they could potentially win the game.
Even just before halftime, that was when Razorbacks were really pressing against the Terrigal line the whole time. And then it was just pure scrambling by Terrigal to hold them out, just knowing, because the Razorbacks, I don't think there was a more dominant part of the game than a minute before halftime, where Razorbacks were just pushing their Terrigal scrum over, and then it got to the point where they were over the line and Terrigal just had to hold them up because that was the end of the play. And that would just nullify at halftime, game restarts. But that
could have been the game right there.
That was it. And that's how the Razorbacks are going to score their tries. They don't have people going to go 90 metres like some of the other teams, but the way they're going to do it is they're going to play field position and get you down there, and they're going to score from there, because once they go down into that end, it's very rare that they don't walk away with points. Happened a couple of times in the weekend, but it's, the pressure that they had, like they were in for all money. I don't know how Terrigal held them out and they didn't go into halftime with this, winning lead.
Spoke a lot about it, but outstanding games by Jai Cornish. I thought he was brilliant.
Yep.
Dan Sargent played really well as fullback. I spoke leading up to the match. I thought the bench would be really strong for Terrigal, which it was when Elikana Lauapo'o come on. That's the Razorbacks didn't get a chance to get ascendancy in the pack because the astute changing and just the quality of the bench from Terrigal really sort of held the Razorbacks at bay, where perhaps during the season they wouldn't have had that opportunity because they didn't have those players coming off the bench. Really good performance by the Terrigal side in regards to that grit, fight and determination to grind out a win. And, Trojans winning again. Big congratulations, well deserved.
It's becoming a little bit of a dynasty now. You hate to sort of throw those words around, but that's what it is now. They were so good in sort of the early 2000s, and now they had a couple of years where they weren't sort of at the very top in sort of the mid, 2014, 15 kind of around there, but they've come back and they've just every year, like when we say next year of who's going to be in the top, Terrigal will be the obvious team that will be at the top. And then, and every team is just there. It's not like they're winning grand finals. They won a couple of years ago by 60 or whatever it was. Every team is a sniff every single week, but they just keep winning. That's exactly what happened.
We probably should do research, but I think Terrigal's won 5 of the last 6 or 6 of the last 7. They've been in maybe 8 or something like that. So they've had an outstanding purple patch of form, and it continues on. And it's a testament to how well the club's being run and all the coaching staff and everyone in and around the club. So a big congratulations to the Terrigal Trojans getting the Premier 1 Premiership for 2022 in what was an entertaining match for all of us.
Well, now on to our team of the year, the BnB team of the year.
The illustrious.
So we're only picking one person in each position.
Yep.
Which is upsetting for all you budding second rows and props. So Barthy, first of all.
Centers, wingers.
Oh, yeah, true. There's more positions than 2, isn't there? I didn't get past number 8. I might have the backs of the
side. No, don't matter.
Props, mate. Who is your prop of the year?
Sentimentally, or on the
You
paddock.
did well with that word.
I did. Thank you very much. Heart says Cunos because he retired and didn't play. Wasn't going to play a game all year this year. So my heart says Cunos. But to answer, I guess a little bit seriously, Harry Gray from the Trojans had an outstanding year. He had a really good year of rugby. So he's got to be up there.
Mine's a bit of a...
Having said that, though, Tim Newton taking his clothes off on the sideline just got it over the line.
Well, that was the emotional part. That was the heart side coming through, wasn't it? Mine's a bit of a weird one because I'm not picking him from second row.
We're doing front row, mate.
Oh, no.
Prop. Are you okay?
But he's someone who can play second row and prop and jump in a line out, and you just can't have a prop that jumps in a line out like this man. Jake McPhee.
Well, he played second row.
He played second row, but he came on at prop as well, and I just like... I think there's a couple. Cuno's an obvious one. You know, Todd Atkins has done outstanding stuff all year. You know, continues to compete at the highest level for
25 years.
Exactly, year after year, which is outstanding. But yeah, I love watching Jake McPhee run around, especially. I think he brings so much to a team when he does play prop as well because he's such a mobile prop. And I haven't yet seen him, you're not saying it hasn't happened, but I haven't yet seen him get dominated in the scrum. So I think that's an important thing to have there and that versatility. And I just love a prop who can jump in a line out. It's just unheard of.
Hooker.
It's got to be Copper. It's got to be Copper Elliott.
It's got to be Copper Elliott.
It's
100%.
Yeah, I think no one else was in the sniff. Actually, the only other person I'd have in the sniff is Geordie Clark after seeing him with his shirt off.
Yeah, true.
That gets me up and about.
Again, sentimentally.
Yeah.
Or
otherwise. Second rower.
Make me feel like I want to listen to some Barry White. Then Geordie Clark gets it every day of the week. Oh, yeah. But until then, that's BnB After Dark. That's our After Dark. That's our After Dark.
That's your other episode.
Copper Elliott, he's got to get it.
He has to.
In the Fair Dingham Stakes too. Bloody good footballer.
He was outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Really well.
Especially the final series, he was unreal as well. Just does not stop at all. Second rower.
Well, do you just want to give away another prop? It's either got to be one of those ones. We've mentioned enough. If your name got a mention, well done. You're in the team. So I think we might have named 5 props.
That's fine.
Second row. Who you got?
Nick Outram.
Yeah, good call.
I think a bit of a smoky, to be honest, but I think he is a hard-working second row. I think there's a lot that you can sort of throw in there. Matt Polman was outstanding whenever he was in there. Joe Taylor, obviously, Joey Bu, those sorts of players are always at the top of their game. Jake McPhee, which we can't select the second row anymore, seeing as he is selected a prop. I think there's awesome players all around that could fit into that. I really liked. I think he's got to develop into a really, really strong player, and I liked his attitude. I really liked his attitude towards the line out and how hard he works around the park. James Mann is another one who just did not stop the whole time.
Yeah. And he played half a game with his eyes strapped together.
Exactly.
Or strapped apart.
That takes a tough man.
Yeah.
And obviously Alan Zark, one of the great last names.
And Lazar.
And Lazar.
No,
don't you start saying it normally because I've gone so far the other way now that I can't go back to how it originally
I'm
said.
with you. I'm with you, Nick Outram. I thought he's had an outstanding year.
6.
It's interesting here because we've got a few good 6s wandering around. I want to give.
There's one clear one for me.
One clear one for you. I'd like. Well, so Lockie Peruk gets into my back row somewhere, whether that's 8, 6.
Do you want to just go back row?
Yeah, Lockie Peruk, he's in my back row. You can put him at 6, 7, or 8. He's got to be in my back row. Right. I thought.
I'll tell you my 3 are.
Yeah.
Theon at 6, Lockie Peruk at 7, Rob Peden 8. I'd change that around. I'd have Lockie at 8 and I'd have Peden at 7. Personally. But anyway. Who else would fit in that back row?
No one.
You don't reckon? That's your premier back row?
Personally speaking, I think that's the best back row, best performing back row in the competition.
I agree. I think there's other notable people like Sam Kenny, obviously, Pestas always gets through an absolute mountain of work.
Oh, mate.
Ray Harner. Yeah. Just there's
plenty of good back rowers.
Yeah.
But I think peak form, peak performance, I can't go past those 3. I think they've been outstanding.
Kyle from Wildcats as well. I think he's unreal as a 7 as well. He's got a real future ahead of him. Halfback.
Well, for me, it's a 2-horse race. It's either Cornish or McGrath from Terrigal or Avoca. And Cornish progressed further, so he gets it.
Yep. I'm going to go Mitch. I think his effort in that game against Carrierong was enough for me to see that I believe he's the premier halfback in the competition with what he did. 2 players down and just took the game by the balls and just...
Yeah, good point. And he also joined us in commentary, so maybe that puts him above Cornish.
Yeah, maybe it does. 10.
Well, I think the easy option for it, Dankert obviously has played really well and he's controlled the Terrigal Trojans side and guided them around the park and guided them towards a premiership, which he's done outstandingly well. So that's the easy answer. I think there are opportunities to give Owen Turner from the Razorbacks massive shout-outs because for what he's done, I thought he's had an outstanding. I thought the grand final was probably one of the best games I've seen him play this year. So shout out to him. I thought he played well, but I think Adam Danker's clearly the best.
Yep.
Number 10 in the competition. So it's getting a little bit serious, isn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you talk about Terrigal. It just gets serious.
I don't like it.
I think it's got to be Danks. I think he's just too good that I don't know. And exactly what you said about Turner, I thought he had absolutely cracking year. It's, directing that team around as well to get to the grand final, get within, 5 points. I think he was outstanding. But for me, it's got to be Dankert. His record-breaking year, I think it was. So, and we'll, with everything that he did. So,
can I just give a shout out the back row?
Yep.
Stern Scott.
It's eating away at you, isn't it?
Yeah, he couldn't even.
He gone back 2 positions ago, mate.
He couldn't fit into the 7s jersey, so you got to pick someone who has to.
Well, he's our number 23.
Yeah, 23, 21 or something it was. Yeah. So Stern Scott.
He's our only bench player.
Honourable. Yes, 100%. He's the only bloke on the bench. He can cover everything.
Wingers.
Well, I'm going to give a centre away first.
All right.
And
you want to go 12 before 11?
Well, we can give out a couple, but clearly the people's 13.
Well, let's go from 10 to 13. Yeah, 100%.
It's got to be. Whilst we've crapped on and we've had a lot of fun with Grangey and he's rolled with the punch as well. I think he's enjoyed it. Certainly, we've certainly enjoyed it anyway.
Definitely.
But in the fair dinkum stakes, for a bloke, we've touched on it before, but for a bloke who's gone out of a position to serve his team, geez, he's done a bloody good job.
But he's played. He is a genuine. I think he's a genuine 7. In just how good he is at turning ball over, and if you're slightly isolated just off the ruck or off a scrum or something, and he's there, mate, he's obviously shows what he can do.
But here's the thing: he's a genuine 13.
Yes, because he doesn't miss his tackles. He's turning ball over. There's not. The thing is that you look at you're going to play a 7 out wide. If you do that, there's obviously a chance there that if you get past them, but no one's getting past.
He doesn't play like a 7 out wide. That's the big difference.
Yes,
I've seen plenty of back rowers who think they're centres. They get in their centres and they're at freaking 6s and 7s because they've got people coming at different angles and loops and defensively they're terrible. And you think, how can a back rower be no good defensively? It's completely different.
Yeah.
And I think Grangey's taken it on outstandingly well. So the people's 13 has to be in the centres. For mine,
I agree with you there.
I thought Mitchy Jacobs, before he got busted his knee, was going outstanding at 12 for the Sharks. I really
like Alex Halls.
Alex Halls.
He'd be challenging Grangey for 13.
I think I thought Mitchy Clay from Carrierong played outstandingly well when he came back from his injury.
Yep.
I thought he was playing better footy after his injury than he was beforehand. So lots of good centres out there who played some really good rugby this year.
Wingers, Stingers. Who you got?
Well, Alex Halls played on the wing in the last game, didn't he?
He played 13.
He had 17 on or something like that. Yeah.
He did. Sorry too. Yeah. Parky had 13 on. To be honest, this might seem a little bit unfair, a little bit on wingers.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's been wingers this year that have really stood up in
Or,
terms of-
dominated matches
yes,
and games.
dominated is the word that I'm saying. Don't say dominated is the word that I'm trying to get out.
Yeah. Yep.
Wingers that you just go, shit, I'm playing against this guy this weekend, and you are genuinely terrified. I'm not saying the wingers in the competition haven't, been outstanding. Definitely doing, their role and playing their job, but I don't think there's any premier ones that are there that are like, you are the pick.
I think it's a pretty fair point.
Yeah.
You think about over the years, we've had some pretty dynamic and game-changing wingers who have played. So, I think you raise a good point.
But like Clifty, when he used to play for Gosford, when I started playing on the wing, and I was just like, shit, I'm up against Clifty, like this big dude who just runs over the top of you the whole time. Lucky it's on the wing and never actually happens. The ball doesn't get out.
And lucky Clifty could never catch. Love you, Clifty.
And that was the thing of like, shit, like this, I'm up against this dude, but I don't know if you have that as much these days, or like those really kind of, like, just for example, Jake Hubbard obviously played on the wing in the country champs.
Yep.
He'd be someone that'll be like, like Jake Hubbard, like this dude is just electric the whole time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I find it a little bit hard in that aspect
because you name one, you could probably name six.
That's how I feel. I don't feel like there's a standout one or a standout two.
I don't think.
Cerrone, like, to be honest, Cerrone for me, I wouldn't have put him in the top, say 6 or 7, but watching him in the finals,
Played well.
he didn't do anything wrong the whole time. He's running the ball back. It's sometimes you feel like, okay, because you don't know the person well enough that, or you haven't seen him around that many years, that maybe that might skew your opinion a little bit. But solid as anything. Like, just positional play was outstanding the whole time. So I'd actually have him on one of my wings.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I agree with you. I'm looking for a standout, someone who jumps out, and no one jumps out in regards to.
I mean, you could take Sean Peruk on that one game a year he scored 6 tries, but then do you want that Sean, or do you want the Sean from the other games? You know what I'm saying? So if you get the Sean in the 6th game, if you get six try Sean, then you take the 6 try Sean.
Hey, one thing in the vetting department, bloody good rugby player, defensively outstanding, comes in and. That's a good shout.
Because I even think, just say that, I think Karen a really good example. Those two boys can play almost anywhere. Like, they can play back row, they can play centers, they can, Adam and Sean. Having him on the wings is such security because you know what you're going to get out of them the whole time. They defend well, they hit hard. They're going to be safe as houses. So I think having those two guys there is outstanding. But again, your genuine game breaker on the wing, maybe like you've got Hubbard at fullback.
Yep.
I think that's, that is not the trade-off is probably the wrong word, but that's how I feel a little bit about them. That's not the standout performance.
Yeah.
Who else you got?
No one.
Staying with the one?
Yeah.
Let's go with Cerrone. So 2023 needs to be the year of the winger.
And
we need to see it.
Bender for his moustache.
All right.
For his moustache.
Let's go with that. I think 2023 needs to be the year of the winger. I think wingers need to bring it back. They'd have more of a highlight on wingers. Fullback.
Well, for mine, there's two clear. Hubbard and Briggs.
Yep.
I mean, Dan Sargent won player of the match in the grand final for the Terrigal Trojans. But for mine, week in, week out, Briggs and Hubbard are two players who can change the game for you.
I feel like I don't give Dan Sargent the credit he deserves. Every time I watch him play, I never notice him.
You know, the great thing about about Dan Sargent is he's played a lot of rugby on the wing, and transitions seamlessly to fullback, but is more damaging out on the wing, if that makes sense, because he's just on the job all the time, and half a chance he's away. And I can see why he played fullback, because he's just so dependable back there, and he'll never let you down. He can. I think he's more likely to win you the game from the wing than from fullback. I know that may sound a little bit strange, but he's such a good winger. He's an old bugger now, but he's such a good winger. I think it maybe took a little bit of dynamicism out of the Trojans by playing him at fullback. But he was the best fullback they had. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think it's
he's one player of the match, and I think that's also for me. It's sort of those players that you expect them to play like that every single time.
Also,
and that's why I mean that respectfully, that you don't notice as much.
I just want to throw it out there too. One of the nicest humans you'll ever meet as well.
100%.
Sarge, great fella.
Yeah, I don't want that to come across disrespectfully at all, because he's obviously an amazing player. To win player of the match in a grand final, you got to be pretty freaking good.
Player of the match in a grand final, kind of out of position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's probably not being fair to Sarge. 150 games, he might have played 50 of them in fullback. But I know certainly I love watching him play, and I love watching him play out in the wing just when he gets a little bit of space and he can roam a little bit more than you can at fullback. But
I'm going Briggs, mate. I think for me, I think that Hubbard is more exciting from a viewer's perspective to watch, because I don't know, there's just something about him that's a bit more eccentric. I don't know if that's the right word, but something about him that's just going to be a bit more. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I love watching both of them play, but I think Briggs for me, he'd be my first choice at fullback. I think defensively he's absolutely on song the whole time. And I think he'd be the player. Yeah, he'd be for me. And he also is, the Central Coast fullback as well. I'm going to go with Briggs. Tough choice, though.
And the one bench goes to Stu Scott.
There's no one else you want on there.
No.
At all. Well, that's our team-ish of 2022. A lot of dribbling that, mate. A lot of dribbling that.
Don't bother sending your complaints in. We don't care. We really don't care.
All right, we've done the men's team. On to the women's team now. Thanks, mate. Bit of ASMR for the viewers there. Crack of the tin. ASMR, Barthy, what does it stand for? Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response is what it stands for.
Right, is that what you do to yourself?
Exactly. That's a response you get when you hear a sound that you like. That. All right, on to the women's team.
This is creepy. Let's get
It's not at all. This is the presentation episode. All right. Women's team, 5 forwards, 5 backs.
Of just 5 outstanding rugby players.
5 outstanding.
It is 10s.
Yes. So, yeah, that's why we're going the 10s. All right, forwards, mate. I'll let you lead off with the captain of the team. Who's it going to be?
Emily Lufay.
Emily Lufay.
Without a doubt.
Get the formalities out of the way.
Yep.
Has to be there.
Shock horror.
Yep.
Second pick, Emily Lufay.
Emily Lufay, number 1. Next forward. I'm going to go Hannah Stewart. I don't think she was there. Well, she wasn't there for a lot of the season, but I thought she was absolutely outstanding.
Quality rugby player.
I think she's just too good to leave out of any sort of team that you've got. I'll be taking her in a battle any day of the week.
I think there's a whole variety of women we could be picking from. We could pick an outstanding forward pack and not even get towards the back row.
Definitely.
I think someone like Keris O'Grady-Cousins. I'm a massive fan of her work. I'm a massive fan of how hard she works on the ball and how hard she works around the paddock. Not an overly big stature, quite short, not devastatingly running with the ball, but just everywhere.
But she's just
everywhere. And I love players like that. Sure, you get someone who gets and does those big, dramatic runs, but she's there when they hit the ground and securing the ball for the next phase. She's up and again she goes. I'm a massive fan of hers. I think she's a great rugby player, and she's one of my picks in the forward pack.
Shanae Ball would be the next one for me. She was spent a bit of time out in the backs. I would have her in the forwards. I love her in the forwards. She's just so damaging. The amount of times you see someone try and hit up off a ruck, especially if there's any teams that are sort of struggling for any sort of shape, so they just do that one out sort of run and give it to someone, and they're sort of a standing start and go forward. She just folds them every single time. I love watching it. So I'd 100% have Shanae Ball in there.
I think you got to have Taylor Welsh in the side. I know she sort of roamed around a little bit, played sort of out in the wider channels. This is going to be ridiculously hard to put 10 women into a side. You got Priya Lama, who's
Tish Leonard was going to be my next one because she was so good in the finals.
Lupo.
Yes.
man, there's tons of them. I think Lucy Metcalf even played in the second row.
Yeah.
Even though she's outstanding running from obviously.
Well, I think you have to put her in the forwards, considering the amount of people that are going to be in the backs, and you have to have Lucy Metcalf in that team, 100%.
I'm gonna throw out there. Mine's gone blank now. Theron.
Danielle Theron.
Theron, from the Wildcats.
Yeah.
Good, strong, dependable.
I think
runner.
Duncan as well from the Wildcats is outstanding. I think she's in the mix of that forwards. We're going horrible at naming a starting five here, aren't we? We're not naming a starting five.
I think we've already named 8 or 9, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we have. That's all right. We'll pull it out to starting 9. But there's that much to choose from at the moment. That's what's awesome about it.
Quality women rugby.
Yes. Let's go backs before we fill up more of a 5-man forward pack with 9 players.
I think mine's escaped me now.
Georgia Clements? Mouse?
Yes, Mouse. Yeah, it's hard to go past her as a halfback. Taylor Bateman goes well from the Avoca Beach side, but yeah, I think from a halfback, from a dedicated positional person, she'd be one of my picks. Yeah, Georgia Clements from Hornsby Mouse. Yeah,
I think from like a 10 perspective, I think it's really hard to pick between Ange Miranda with how important she is for Hornsby. Maddie Robson for Terrigal, but I think the one that tops them is Summer Witt for Avoca. I think they're all equally as important to their teams.
Yep.
But I think Summer Witt's just had the wins this year and come up with the big game plays more often than the others. So I would choose Summer Witt for that sort of 10 spot.
Well, the brilliant thing about
the other two are amazing as well.
Yeah, the brilliant thing about how Summer plays, she could play a centre type role. And you couldn't go wrong picking any one of those 3. Yeah, and speaking of that sort of centre sort of running, it's hard to go past the veteran Renee Staben. She's been outstanding. A little bit wider than that, but the Kate Thompson medal winner in Shani Waters, she has to be in the side.
Sean George,
top
try scorer, the top point scorer, has to be in the side.
Yeah, Jess Brooks. Although Jess probably didn't have the strongest finish to the year, but she's an outstanding and quality rugby player. We've got Lucy Metcalf, which we've mentioned. We've got Carly Morris, which we haven't mentioned.
I don't know how we didn't get on to her.
There's just so many outstanding women playing the game at the moment who are so good at playing 10s rugby. It's hard. If I was to do this fair dinkum and put down a starting 10, I'd need to actually think and start and
that's clearly not what we're doing in a presentation night episode.
Put pen to paper.
No, we're just kind of going off the cuff here, but that is the hard thing. But how awesome is it?
Yeah.
But how we didn't even mention Ebony Millgate.
Yeah,
the forwards, like somebody like that who's just scored the try in the grand final, and she is absolutely just dominates when she comes onto the field. She is awesome. Holly Johnston, who's scored some couple of big plays for Terrigal as well. There's absolutely awesome players that we're probably not giving the credit to, but that is now the strength of the women's competition. That a couple of years ago we wouldn't have had that, and now we've got it where we've got so many players that are going, check out this person, check out this person. Like, how awesome is this person playing? And genuinely, they are stars that you want to go and watch on a weekend. Because I look forward to watching those players more than the men sometimes.
Because they just play pure rugby. We've touched on it many times.
Yeah.
It's great to watch. So, all women, thank you for an outstanding year. Thank you for what you've done. I know personally speaking, Berner, they actually make me enjoy the game.
100%.
They're watching the women play. I get more joy in watching the women play and the spirit in which they play than I do for most Premier 1 games.
I feel like they create that on the field.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's a bit different. I feel like the atmosphere off the field for the men's is what creates that game, but I feel like the atmosphere on the field for the women's is what creates that such an amazing spectacle.
The women are perfect examples of athletes and sports people who can turn it on for the 80 minutes and then turn it off when it's finished.
Yes.
And not
100%.
carry on with the bullshit afterwards.
100%.
They get on, they get down to business, They're bloody good at their business, and when the whistle goes, it's knock-off time. So well done, women. I love it. It's great.
Well done to our starting 10-ish for the 2022 season. Right, Barthy, on to the awards. So we're going to go through, first of all, through the CCRU awards that they had their presentation night, and then we'll get on to the BnB Awards, esteemed BnB Awards, prestige, whatever words you want to throw out there. First of all, referee of the year for CCRU was Aaron Crofty. The highest point scorer, Sean George for the women's competition on 172, Adam Dankett for the men's competition on 186, both from the Terrigal Rugby Club. The club championship, went to Terrigal Rugby Club. Club of the year was Avoca Beach Rugby Club. The coach of the year was Michael Farrelly and Jonathan Bell. Very long name there. The Peter Armstrong Club Person of the Year was Ryan Hazel from the Wildcats. Terry Woodward Award for Service went to Kate Thompson. And the two big gongs, the Kate Thompson medal and the Sid Noble medal. The Kate Thompson, the first ever Kate Thompson medal.
First ever. How good.
Went to Shani Waters from the Avoca Beach Rugby Club.
Well deserved.
And the Sid Noble medal went to Adam Dankett from the Terrigal Rugby Club.
Well deserved.
Absolutely well deserved.
Well, some outstanding Central Coast awards there.
All well deserved as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to give a shout out, a recognition from a coaching perspective. This is I can already know the rabbit hole I'm falling down. I think we've got to shout out. I think we've got to shout out to Marshall. I know we have a lot of fun with
Apologies.
that.
I might turn that down in case it happens again.
I know we have a lot of fun with Marshall, but what he got that club through to still make the semi-finals, I think an outstanding job. Well done, Marshall. I think Mick Burgess from Avoca, what the job he's done in turning that side around and that club around in 12 months. So well done to Mick. And I also think Nick Meyer, with what he had at the start of the year, is he's done an outstanding job as well. So I've pretty much just hung shit on the 3 or 4 coaches I didn't mention.
Well, I mean, I'd be mentioning Lou as well.
Yeah, Lou's done great.
You know, the first female coach to coach Premier One as well, and take their side through, and to the season they had as well, where they were one of the first teams to qualify for the finals as well, which was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah,
I think also every coach in their own right has done outstanding. Warnervale's coach, to get what they did, with that one game away from finals, that was obviously outstanding. I suppose you can only say the Premier One coach, for Woy Woy maybe, that slipped away. That's the only one you can say, but that's even bloody hard to say that. So I'm not the person that said that at all.
So we've only hung shit on one coach, and that's the Gossip coach.
Now I got the Hornsby coach as well. You've hung shit on them because you forgot about the Hornsby coach as well. So this is a problem. You can't start thanking people because then you've got to thank everybody. Right.
So I'm not sure who coaches Gossip. I can't remember. But I know Chris Waters coaches Hornsby, so get stuffed, Chris.
All right. The BnB Presentation Awards, mate. What everyone's listening for. Hope you enjoyed the first 40 minutes of dribble up into this point. All right. The sexiest... Let's get the first one out of the way. The sexiest coach. Well, it's only ever going to one man. We know who it's going to be. This is the award we got to announce first.
Well, hang on.
What?
I think I know who it is.
Who do you know who it is?
I think I know who the sexiest coach is.
Who's the sexiest coach?
It's from the Lakes.
He's from the Lakes.
Is it Els? Andrew Ellum? It is, isn't it? It is. It's Els, isn't it? Yes. Well done, Els. I knew you had it in your power.
It's not coach. Andrew Ellum this time. It is Marshall Hamopo from the Lakes. Well done, Marsh.
It's an outrage. I want to count back.
Although Els has taken the what is the form I'm talking about? I'm trying to go on a bit of a tangent here. He's taken the submission form, the application form for the sexiest coach. Right. Yep. He's tried to scribble out the name. He's Els has put in his own name, but obviously a picture of Marshall to try and...
I thought you were unlucky, Els.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Anyway.
Marshall Mopo, congratulations. Probably the 4th year running of the world's sexiest coach.
Might be
CCRU's sexiest coach.
If it all goes, and I don't know if we're making the announcement officially for him, but... I don't think Marshall's coaching next year, and if that's the case, well done, Trooper. You've done an outstanding job with the club. You've seen them through an outstanding year, and the Club of the Lakes is a much better club and a more positive vibe when that club's around, and that's been through under your guidance. So well done, Marshall. Good man.
But even you see him out on the week, I'm going to give him a bit of love later, actually. I'll save my love for that. Don't want my love to go up too early. The most effective sidestep in the competition, Barthy. There's many sidesteps in this competition. There's many that dazzle, that are great to look at. Very easy on the eye.
Think people that come to mind, Jake Hubbard, Mitch Briggs.
Yep.
I'll tell you, he's got a really deceptive sidestep. Harry Hughes from the Terrigal Trojans inside centre. Goes really well, but clearly there's only
Brett
one
Cunningham.
person. Yeah, Cunnos. There's only one person with an outstanding sidestep.
Well, there's none more effective than this person.
Has to go to Ebony Millgate.
Has to go to Ebony Millgate.
Ebony Millgate. Well
Most
done.
effective sidestep. I might have a clap effect on this.
There you go.
There you are.
Well done.
We got the applause. Congratulations, Ebony.
For the rest of you, didn't get an applause.
There's only one so far. Might be able to wind that in. Her sidestep is just amazing.
It is.
It is. We've touched on it being the most effective sidestep, but as soon as she plants that foot and just charges through the angle, beats them every single time. No one has ever not fallen for the sidestep. All right, slowest back. There's a lot of candidates.
IQ or speed?
This one will take out both, but I'm talking about speed for this candidate.
She's got a few contenders.
You got a few contenders. Is there any that you want to throw out there before I announce a winner?
No, just go straight. Go cold. Just bang. I don't want to,
Congratulations to Josh McGlynn
There you go.
from the Carryong Wanderers team. Easily the slowest back in the CCRU competition. Congratulations, Macca. Another award. Former CCRU Player of the Year.
He nearly ran through a couple of. He nearly created. Well, he created a few. He nearly made some line breaks.
Creating potential and turning that potential into a line break is a little bit different.
One of the great servants to Central Coast.
Straightest flag work. So we've harped on the touchies a little bit this year. We particularly pay close attention to the finals when we know that we have a captive audience that are going to be watching on the screen. Flag work's important. Flag work, if you got a touchy that can have their left or right arm out straight, the other arm straight up in the air, holding that flag.
We asked for two things: parallel and perpendicular.
Exactly.
That's a fancy way of saying.
It's a motto we live by.
Yeah, parallel, perpendicular. It is by no surprise that our winner is Tony Fury. So the great thing for Tony, he's that old, rigor mortis is starting to set in, so he actually struggles to bend his elbows anyway. So it's worked out really well for him, and he's in his assistant's duties. So well done, Tony. Good man.
Congratulations, Tony. Still winning awards all these years on. Mate, the finals moment of 2022. And there was a few
finals moments, wasn't there?
There was. What's the number one for you, or who are we giving the award to?
I think there's a couple of highlights. I think the Battle of the 15s, some open play running when Hubbard and Briggs, under lights at Woy. That was a great sort of battle of speed and agility. I think some of the barnstorming runs we saw from the ladies, I think there's some highlights there. I could rattle off two or three different ladies who made really strong runs up through the centre. But I think the highlight for me, without a doubt, for the semi-finals or for the final series was the foot race between Lucy Metcalf from the Hornsby Club and Sian George. It was, without a doubt, the highlight of the semi-final, a highlight of the final series for me. I thought it encapsulated everything that is brilliant about the game, everything that is brilliant about the women's game, and I just absolutely loved it. Can't speak more high of it. I loved it.
I can't remember. I still haven't looked it up who kicked the ball, because we've got to remember whoever kicked the ball 95 metres.
Yeah. It was a massive kick.
Because you could see it might have been Maddie Robson. I'm not too sure.
Jump on our socials. And
tell us. Maybe they go out a shot for who it was, but
if you kicked it from the Terrigal Trojan side,
let us know. You've just kicked the 95 metres. Right in. Why are we talking about the chase when you just kicked the ball 95 metres? Yeah. But I'm remember them calling it because you could see them then just going, "Let's go downtown," because they're
Hornsby pressure.
Yeah, 5 metres out from their own line. Hornsby are right on top of them. There's no one back, and you've also got Sian George there. So why wouldn't you go? It's 100% the right play.
Makes perfect sense.
Exactly. But just having that race, and you can see Metcalf just going forward and Sian George just take over, and you hear us commentating it's game, set, match.
We were just screaming into the microphone.
Yeah, well, how good Sean George, taking over the player, everything. And then you just see Metcalf just claw back.
Yeah.
And at this point, they've ran 90 metres side by side, and Metcalf claws it back. Like, there's never a time when you see someone burn somebody else and that other person
fight back.
That other person comes back and get it, and just pure determination by Lucy Metcalf. By both girls. Like, Sean George obviously had a fantastic season, and then for Lucy to get back there and secure that ball was just phenomenal. That's got to be the moment for the year.
Absolutely.
Or the moment for the final series. All right, 2 to go. Best haircut. There's a lot rolling around at the moment of good haircuts.
Some honourable mentions.
There are some honourable mentions. But look, Student Scott does have a good one. Clint Guyatt, another one. It's doing well. A lot of upkeep there. But I think the main one has to go to Dylan O'Malley from
Carrying Wanderers.
From the Carrying Wanderers. His mullet, year in, year out, continues to amaze.
Impressive.
Yeah, and it's sort of, everyone expects it from Dill. It's just another year I've got to roll this mullet out again. But he keeps rolling it out. He doesn't complain. He just gets on with his work. He understands his role and how important that haircut is to the Carrying Wanderers club. And since he's been rolling it out, they're having a lot of success. So, I'm not saying it's, obviously, I think there's a bit of hard work and, coaching and the players playing well, but Dylan O'Malley, since he's had that mullet.
Started growing out the mullet. Yeah, the Samson of the rugby club.
They've been going good. Last one, mate. The last award.
Yep.
Prestigious award. The best rig of the Central Coast.
Ooh.
Now, as a couple that were going around, I see, somebody like Brett Cunningham sort of sitting there, hand on hips before a scrum. And I see, just poking the gut out, just trying to suck in the big ones. And I just think, and he's, proud of obviously the dad belly he's got going on. A lot of money that's gone into that thing as well.
Yeah.
You also see
Are you fat shaming someone?
No, I'm not. No, not at all. It leads me to my next person. You also see Mitch McGrath, obviously a well-oiled rig. How much he likes to work on that. So men of all shapes and sizes. So it's not about having the most refinement. It's about having the best rig. But I think there's a clear winner.
Absolutely. I know there's a rig I go to bed at night thinking about.
That's it. And that only rig will be Geordie Clark's rig.
Absolutely.
There is no one who has embraced the dad life more than Geordie Clark from the Razorbacks. And, unashamedly wins a finals game, just takes his shirt off and just thinks, I'm here. And you know what?
Stand back, ladies.
100%. And that is the man that you want.
And some men, you know what I'm saying?
And I think he's obviously just beaten Mitch McGrath there because Mitch is, obviously working on a lot there.
Well, I'd like to say Mitch is unlucky, but he's not.
No, he's not.
No.
I think Mitch looks at Geordie Clark and goes, fair enough.
I'll get there one day.
Yeah, I've got a good rig. It's going to take a lot of years and a lot of shit food, but I'm going to get there one day. I'm going to be Geordie Clark. So
I tell you what, Geordie Clark does get an award that would. Can you just start scratching into the trophy now? Shot of the finals.
Oh yes,
that was absolutely wonderful. Geordie Clark just absolutely.
Logan Campbell, yeah. But he was putting those shots on all game, but that was just the one that sort of
just stood out.
You just see Logan getting back on side, just getting going. All right, trucking it up again. Geordie just hits him perfectly, the perfect time. But his defense is outstanding. I do want to give Geordie a bit of a shout out as well. It is awesome seeing him with his young one coming down to the games and like the stuff he tags us in the socials. Enjoying. Him getting to know rugby with a young family and think like this is awesome. Like I'm taking, my young one to a grand final and those things that he posts. That's awesome that, that's obviously happening, him with his family. But don't lose the rig, mate, because if anyone tells you to lose your rig at all, anybody in the preseason, you got to slim down, you got to put on more, don't change for anybody because you're winning awards. It's an award-winning rig.
It is.
Exactly. Well, that's the BnB Awards for 2022. Let's get on to some love.
I've heard people say that too much of anything is not good for you, baby.
Time for some love, Burner.
Last love of the year, mate.
Last love of the year. Love you, pal.
Love you too, mate. Who are we loving this week?
Oh, mate, we've got lots of love. I'm going to start the love out with Blake Harrington from the Razorbacks. He's the physio who, he says, P.S., I'm the physio who strapped James Mann's eyes apart.
James Mann's eyes apart. Well, it's apart. Iconic, that strapping technique. Yeah, There's not many people that can do it.
No, it's well done to Blake on an outstanding
strapping job. Getting him back in the game.
Just literally just rolled a roller tape around James's eyeballs. That's all he did. It's straight around his eyes. Anyway.
So good.
I'll read it very quickly. It basically goes, I'd just love to give some shout out and some love for club physios and first aiders who week in, week out, not only look after their own clubs, but lend a hand with their opponents when shit hits the fan. In particular, Blake would like to give a shout out to Michael McQueen from the Terrigal Trojans, and he'd also like to give out a shout out to Stan the Man from the Evoca Beach side. So, Blake, I've just done that for you, pal. The physio from the Razorbacks giving out some love to all physios, all first aiders, all basically volunteers who give up their time to help out Central Coast Rugby. I think it's an outstanding shout out, and more than happy to do it on your behalf, Blake. So from the Razorbacks physio, a shout out to all the physios and everyone who helps out during match day.
Awesome. Second one, the ball boy at the grand final on the weekend.
Yep.
Copped a little bit of curry, but I absolutely loved it. The ball went out, and him being an awesome ball boy, caught the ball. Obviously, just as you do, the ball goes out, you catch the ball.
Yeah, doing his job.
Exactly. And maybe stopped a bit of a quick throw, but in saying that, it wasn't a game that was quick throws aplenty, and it was a pivotal moment in the game, I didn't think anyways. But because of that...
you wouldn't have a clue.
Exactly. Cop a little bit of curry, and then...
Should never have copped curry.
Exactly. And went into the sheds at halftime, then didn't want to come back out. So that's obviously an unfortunate event that's happened, and just a kid just sort of doing his job. So I want to give some love to him. Chris Smith, young boy from the Razorbacks. Don't know if he's an avid listener of the podcast, but maybe Dad can show him this episode and say, look, mate, there's some love coming your way.
I'm happy to give Smithy plenty of curry.
Yeah, I know.
But not his young fella who's doing the right thing.
No,
so, yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
But awesome to see, ball boys. Sorry, one more thing.
Lots of love to you, young Smithy. I reckon you're already a more handsome and probably a better rugby player than your old man ever was. And good on you, pal. You're a good man.
The amount of kids running out of the field the other day in the one game was absolutely outstanding.
Absolutely awesome.
All right, next bit of love. Mate, I'm going to go to the Gosford Rugby Club. I've given them love earlier this year, but I can tell you, and this is, personally speaking, I don't know how you feel, I gave them zero chance this year of doing what they did. I know they came last in the competition, but they came back, and they came back Premier 1, Premier 2, and they came back in the comp when no one thought that they would do it. And they, for some games they were competitive, but this was the exact year they needed if they want to be a team.
I always knew they could come back.
You were leading the charge. I know,
mate. I was leading the digging. I was the first to have the shovel.
The grave was dug. Yeah. Everyone else came to help out.
It's not deep enough.
You've already dug it. But I thought what they did.
No, with you. And
massive.
Sorry, in the feeding department, cutting you off there. I was one of those people. I said they're gone. They're done. They're not coming back from that. And not going to steal your thunder, but. I'm very, very happy to say I was wrong.
But not even the players that brought back. They brought back people who are good club people.
Yeah.
And the one highlight for me is Ben Shelley, who I've said it a couple of times.
Only one highlight, not the other 30 people who just played him week in, week out.
You know what? I'm doing enough here.
So you know what? You've gone.
I'm doing enough.
You to the other 29 players. You don't care. Ben Shelley can do it. You know what?
This is why we can't have an episode thanking people, because then we're going to thank everybody, all right?
Berner's told the rest of you 29 players, don't bother coming up next year. Ben Shelley's got it all.
Well, it's the Ben Shelley show anyway. I'm not getting myself out of this. I might as well dig deeper.
Didn't you see what he called you on the socials during the call,
mate? Yeah, I think it's huge with what he's done. Presence off the field, but with what he's sort of happy to have interviews, happy to write into us, but having a class player like him on the field, I think is really pivotal to sort of direct the team around that really does need guidance on the field. They've got some young players in there, some inexperienced players as well. So I think he is massive in terms of their being there for the next couple of years, and then maybe attracting back some other players as well. I think that is a big thing there. So props to the Gosford Rugby Club. We definitely didn't think that you could do it, and you've done it. So you're back in the competition now. So now it's obviously pushing forward and trying to move up that ladder. But getting back in for that first year was massive. And the year they've had in terms of getting the player commitment and the events that they've done is probably more than they've done in the last couple of years anyway in terms of that. Especially numbers of training, those sorts of things.
A little bit more of that, and they could probably be more sustainable than they were before that. So yeah, I'm with you, mate. Big congratulations to the Red Devils. Well done.
All right. Lady Love, I'll let you lead this off.
Oh, yeah. Lady Love, I've alluded to it all season. I alluded to it a little bit earlier on in this episode. I cannot overstate the importance the women are in our game, and the importance that the women players and the women's competition has to our game, and the just the vibrancy and the love for the game that they bring, and the way the women approach the game and the way they play and their attitude towards it actually makes me want to go watch the game. It actually makes me love the game again, because there's so much shit that goes on, and I'm talking about people on the sideline and people who get carried away, that makes me go, you know what, I don't want to be around this. I don't want to listen to this, and I don't want to see this. But the women and their attitude is something that makes me want to go to the rugby. So I want to give some love to them. I think all women, all people involved in the women's game, coaches, physios, managers, the women who make the game day 15, the women who don't, everyone in and around that women's competition, I want to thank you, because you've helped me love the game more. So, big love to all women.
Last of all, CCRU and what they have done this year. And
I got one more after CCRU.
we're trying to go before. No, we'll go after CCRU. So when we started this a couple of years ago, the whole idea was to profile players. The whole idea was to, the players, like all the ladies that we have, like our Premier One players that we have, and, like Granger, like your Scott Hanleys, like your Ray Harners, like your Cunnos, all those sorts of players. They're obviously known around clubs and because they're the people you play against, but having some sort of platform, in this day and age in which you can really profile those players, whether it's, and obviously we do it in our own way. That's, obviously a lot of fun.
We were about profiling the sport, the players and the clubs.
Yes. And, for me personally, like obviously Barthy's had a lot more experience around the clubs than me, but for me, I've only ever kind of known one club, and I've sort of seen, I've had friends at other clubs, but
just need to state this categorically as well. On the Central Coast, I've only ever been involved with one senior club.
There's a couple that you've been involved with.
One senior club.
Yeah, right.
One senior club.
Keep saying it, mate.
No one's listening.
Doesn't matter.
They're making up their own truth. One senior club. It's all I've been involved with.
And because of that, I've never kind of seen the inner workings of other clubs. You understand how they work. Every club is just so similar in terms of they've got amazing people, and obviously the people are different. The people at the helm, the coaches there, the players there are different. And that's what drives your culture and what you are as a club. But it is so important to understand, or for me personally, it's been almost inspiring to see all these awesome people that you go to, whether it's at Hornsby, whether it's at Gossip, whether you go to Terry or Avoca or Lakes, all the amazing people around there and the characters that you have. And that's what makes the competition so good. And we are in a super strong I suppose, spot at the moment in terms of we won the country championships.
Yep.
And also the feeling around Central Coast Rugby is a lot stronger than it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yep.
And I think that's really important because players are getting highlighted that you've got, the next one I was going to get at was Lenny, and, obviously Lenny with what he does from on a Saturday for a refereeing perspective, but also the stuff that he does for promoting the game through, using, services that you would pay a lot of money for in Photoshop and those sorts of things to get player profiles out there, and teeing up with the players to take the shots that they can then use for promotion for the finals and all those sorts of games, doing all that, and then even seeing the inner workings of Nick Friend, who's taking all the photos for the final series, and seeing him take the photos and him just straight away dropping them to Eleni, who then puts that up. And you've got a photo that's going up half an hour after it's taken.
Yeah.
Usually it takes days. Half an hour after it's taken, it's on the socials. And that means people who are following the socials are living in that moment.
Watching
like,
live.
yeah, this is the team that's just done that. So I think it's awesome, and it's allowed those players. And even today, there's more that have gone up on Facebook as well from Nick Friend's photos and from Eleni going, reading the room and going, this is the photo that we need right now. And that hasn't happened. We've done it in some elements, but that from a Central Coast Rugby perspective, that's what needed to happen, and it is happening now. It's
absolutely.
So good to see.
Raising the professional standards of the club and how it presents itself.
There is no other
competition.
No other competition in country that is doing what we are doing in Central Coast Rugby.
And I think that's, I agree with you. Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic shout out for love. Mine kind of tags a little bit onto that as well. I was at a game. I can't remember exactly who it was. I think it was Lakes, and I can't remember. I was at a game where I just stood back and watched the amount of people who volunteer, setting up the canteen, putting the barbie on, putting beers on ice, getting behind the bar. A massive undertaking, and then you think on top of that, all the litigious rubbish that goes on with registration of players and insurances and council and all this sort of stuff.
I haven't thought about Rego for a couple of years, and that is a nightmare process.
And all this stuff that goes on, and we have so many people around the coast. Everyone's doing it for love, for support of their community and support of their local community, but also in support of the rugby community, and that should never ever go unthanked, unnoticed, or taken for granted. And that's what I'm not going to allow happen right here. So that's my love for the people who think they don't get noticed. I can tell you one thing, I've noticed you, and a lot of people can't get a sandwich, and a lot of people can't get a beer, a lot of people can't get a sausage sandwich, some red frogs, whatever the case may be, marking the lines, setting up, pumping up balls. You're all fantastic people, and you make this local rugby community outstanding. So
the heart and soul of the rugby club, because if all those things aren't there, then the players are going to rock up, and then and some of those people are the players, but more than often they're not. And I always struggled as a young player to understand, why do you do this? Like, why are you coming down at 9 o'clock on a Saturday, and why are you doing the lines on a Friday afternoon, like after work, and you're there marking out our lines for our ground, you're there doing this? Like, what is it in there for you? Because I suppose as a younger player, you couldn't kind of see that. You're like, you're not playing. You don't get the thrill of playing. You don't get to run out. You're just you're a person in the back that doesn't have any. I suppose you never get thanked. You never. I don't even know your name. That was how I thought of these things. But why do these people do it? But like, you can see it from the other perspective now. Like, they do it purely for the love and the enjoyment of that community and having that community aspect.
And the good, successful clubs on the coast recognise that and thank them.
Yes, 100%. It's a good love segment, mate. I think we're back to the start. I think we've gone through Barry's.
This might be the extended love section.
Well, no, I think we've gone through Barry's whole album. We've come back to track one. That's awesome. Well, that's the last bit of love for 2022. That is an awesome segment you brought in. Between you and Barry to bring in. So, awesome stuff. But that's love, mate, for 2022.
Well, Burner, what an outstanding presentation evening podcast episode. Well, not outstanding. We had fun doing it anyway.
We did hell of a lot better than last year's one.
Yeah.
If you want a treat.
No, don't waste 2 hours of your life.
Oh, my God. I edited that, and I still haven't listened back to it because of how pissed I was. Slightly less pissed this time.
Well, mate, here's cheers to an outstanding year. Thank you, pal. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for all your hard work. I bang on about this every year. I'm going to bang on about it again now. I'm the nincompoop who has all these fantastic ideas. I go, "Hey, let's do this, and then we can do this, and then we can do that." And Burner's the bloke who goes, "Yep, no worries, I'll make it happen." And YouTube as you're watching now, and the different bits and pieces. He's what makes the magic happen. Wow, magic's a bit of a dramatic word, but he's what makes this dribble come to your ears. So. Mate, thank you sincerely. It's been an absolute joy. I really do appreciate it. I love your calmness and your guidance. I respect your opinion and I seek it often. And you're a good human. And thank you for all you've done with me. And I really have appreciated it. So thank you.
Thanks, mate. Greatly appreciate it. And on the other side of that is obviously thanking you, who is the man with all the ideas of, how this should work. And, this whole thing started because, Barthy came to me and said, there's this thing that's missing in the community, and it's this something that can bring the players out, and it can do this. I don't know what it looks like, but there's something there. So let's just, and we sort of teased it out for a little bit, and then it became, what turned into the podcast. And the first episode we tried to do, the first couple episodes, they took 2 days to record. So we'd record them, after work, and it probably took and this is for like a 30-minute episode. It probably took 3 or 4 hours because it's a lot harder than it looks. It's not that hard now, but getting used to
the standards of it.
I think our standards of ourselves have dropped quite heavily, but it's really hard in the beginning because you got to learn how to talk properly, and then we still haven't mastered. I think it's our standards that are just dropping further and further. But then it's like the editing part. There's a lot to sort of go through. But then over time, it becomes this thing, and I think your ideas and I suppose your passion for the game. Moving forward in a positive direction, I think is what makes this obviously really easy to do. So, thank you very much, mate. And if we didn't have that conversation a couple of years ago, I think there'd be a real hole in the Central Coast Rugby competition. And I think we have been the driving force in a few things. And one thing I think that we're both quite proud of is the Kate Thompson medal. I don't know if there would have been a push for that as much if we didn't say that. Yeah. We now have a premier women's competition. We need a premier women's
recognition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've got the Sydney Oval medal, and there's no better person to name it after, because Kate Thompson, who's sitting there in the board, isn't going to be like, name it after me. Yeah. But there is no one more deserving that needs it than Kate Thompson. So I think to have that outside perspective, and obviously you driving that as well. So thank you very much, mate. It's for another awesome year.
That
couldn't have gone any better. So I got some controls on the ground, guys, if you haven't seen. And as the beers are kicking in, my feet's getting a little bit more wandering and is pushing those buttons.
How
good's this one ending?
Couldn't have worked out better.
Oh,
hey,
sums it up.
Can I just make an announcement?
Sure.
This is completely unscripted, and I forgot to tell Berner about this before we started recording.
I told you, mate. Always run out all your ideas past.
No, I got it. Yeah. The BnB podcast. We are going to purchase a new premiership trophy for the women's competition, because that thing is fucking piss weak. If you've seen it, it's the size of a freaking medallion. It is an embarrassment to the women. It's an embarrassment to the work and effort they put in, and we are going to purchase a trophy of significance and a shield of significance for the women's team, because they deserve it.
I'm on board with that.
All right, Berner, mate, to sign off for 2022. We've had 3 outstanding seasons, 3 outstanding years of the podcast, expanded into sort of a bit of YouTube and that sort of stuff, a bit of fun this year. Mate, not sure what next year's going to look like.
Not just yet.
No, I don't know what shape we'll take, if it takes any shape at all. Next year's a long way away, but certainly at this very absolute minute and point in time, thank you, pal. It's been outstanding. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, listeners. Thank you to everyone who supported us and everyone who's given us a positive shout out and said how much they've enjoyed the commentary or how much they enjoy the podcast. It has absolutely meant the world to us. Certainly, I know personally speaking, I really did enjoy knowing that the people are connecting with it and appreciate the effort we do. So thank you to those people. I do want to seriously thank Gus and the team from Erina Podiatry. We've crapped on about it before. Gussie came on board from day one. He said, I love the idea. It's great. It's for the community. And he's got on board and he's been on board the whole time. Always a massive supporter, and all the stuff we give away, and we saw the fun we had when you went and chucked some stuff away during the grand final. That's done with Gus. Gus gives us money so we can put this stuff to wear and all that sort of stuff. So thank you very much to Gus and the team at Erina Podiatry. Sincerely, thank you. Also to Benny Spindler from PMA Global, he came on board this year, and he produced all the paraphernalia and bits and pieces that we gave away, all the little prizes. So if you're at a crossroads in your club and you are not sure who you're going to get to supply your jerseys and all your bits and pieces, get in contact with Benny Spindler from PMA Global. He is a very good man, and he will look after you. So Benny Spindler from PMA Global. If you can't get a hold of him, he's associated with the Avoca Beach Rugby Club, and get a hold of him, and he will certainly help you and your club. We've also had other sponsors on board.
Trojans Family Restaurant.
Trojans Family Restaurant and Bar. They've turned around. They gave us over $500 worth of gift vouchers that we've given away to people. So a big thank you to the Trojans Restaurant and Bar. We've had the Block and Tackle Brewery come on board and produce beers for us, the Bee and Brew, and it's been great. And absolutely everything that has come to us has gone back into the community. So really appreciate those people who have come on board, those sponsors, and make sure you get out and support them.
And just to sign off, you said it before, but just make sure, obviously, rugby ends, obviously now have presentation nights, etc. for your own clubs. And then we have obviously a big break, but, keep in touch with those from your rugby family. Obviously, people go play summer sports, but some people don't go to play anything at all. And that rugby community that we have, whether it is the wider community or it's a certain friendship group in that club or it is that club itself, that is a family. And that's a family that, people spend, 2 to 4 days a week, with that family and sort of for that to leave them for, 4 or 5 months is obviously, can be a big thing for some people. So keep in contact, whether it's social touch, OzTag, whatever it is you want to play, mixed netball, anything like that, or, get in, go and do that and sort of keep that club spirit up. And because we're looking forward for an absolutely banging 2023 season.
Yeah, regular coffee, just keep
beers.
Keep that line of communication open.
100%. Well, for the last time of 2022, see ya!